I love MMA and the UFC so much that I flew halfway across the world to Canada and walked right into the EA headquarters ready to fulfill my sacred duty as a UFC game changer. That meant getting an opportunity to speak directly to the devs of UFC 5 about some of the changes I want and you want to see inside of the game and how we, the game changers, can make that work and work together to get the most out of our MMA game experience. I was not paid to come and visit, and the goal was pretty simple: have meetings, playtest the game and the new patch, and check out how everything is made and have a big old chat about what we can do to improve the EA UFC gaming franchise moving forward.
Good morning, everybody. I'm here in Canada, of all places. Can you believe it? It is an early morning, but we're going to visit the EA offices, and we're going to go try and talk to the dev team and talk to them about UFC 5 and try and see if we can't get some of these changes that we all want. Have a chat, see what's going on, and explore. First time in Canada, let's check it out.
Inside the EA headquarters, there wasn't just the UFC, but a bunch of other games. Having one place meant that sharing resources between everyone was even easier. We got inside, had a lovely breakfast to get us started, and then it was time to crack on with the first day. We got a quick tour first of some of the facilities and shown around where the UFC 5 dev team works. And day one was all about meeting the developers and all the different people that work on the UFC games. We got to speak to pretty much all of them, and the first thing we did was get playing on the new patch coming out. There had been a lot of changes to stamina, block, and some new fighters that have been added. That patch should be just going live as this video is coming out. After that, and we played for a while and talked to the developers about the things we were having troubles with, we sat down as a big group in a big meeting and we talked about what we all want out of an MMA game. Us game changers brought up the areas we felt were in need of attention and what you guys, the community, were currently finding frustrating. Now, the footage you're looking at right now is from the playtest sessions. I can't show you the meetings. They were in a private room with a lot more people, but they really listened and we had a really good chat. If there's any major takeaway I can tell you is that everyone working on this game loves this game and loves MMA. It was surprising how much they really wanted to listen to what we had to say. After that, we took another tour and had a look at some more of the facilities, including their giant motion capture room, which we're going to go into later at this video, but it was a huge space and seriously impressive as well.
Yeah, so what we got going on here, it's an FC day. So we're doing some soccer, or football, depending on where you're from, no offense. So you'll see they make use of our big volume down there. We've got the nets out there because obviously they've been doing some kicks.
It's been a good first day so far. Spoken to the dev team, played a lot of UFC 5, had a big meeting session where we brainstormed a bunch of new ideas, so on to the next one. After a pretty long first day, I think we did 8 hours every day, we headed back to the hotel and I recorded this little video so I could kind of get my real-time thoughts about what we talked about that day. So hopefully it should give you a bit more info.
Alright guys, back in the hotel room, we just did the first day. It was a really, really good chat we got to have with the developers today. They really listened to everything that we had to say as game changers. We went through problems that we wanted fixed, problems that we can get working on really quickly, things that we find annoying as players, things we don't like having to deal with. How can we fix those problems and get talked directly to the devs and explain it to them? And then we also talked about features we'd like to see now in UFC 5, like brand new features that we could come up with. And we got as creative as we could. We talked about new positions in grappling, we talked about new transitions, new striking, just anything that we could think of. Not only did we get to discuss those ideas as a group and with them, we also got to find out more about what's possible and what's not possible within the game, and what we can change and what's like a lot harder to change, and what we can do as a group to try and get the best ideas sort of to the top of the list for what we want to see, really.
Day 2 was just as good, really. We had a little bit more play testing, but what we did this day was go and speak to the creation team. So we got a full run through of exactly how character creation works in UFC 5. Now, I've done games design at university, so this was quite a nice trip down memory lane for me, seeing exactly what technologies they use and how they approach character creation. There's a ton of stuff I could talk about here. The way they create their textures is very, very interesting. The polygon counts of their models are incredibly high because of, the space they have to play with just models. I got to take a look at some physics being customized and how that all works, individual XYZs of physics for things like hair and anything you can think of. Also saw the collision boxes. Obviously they're super important given that we're a physics-based fighting system.
All of the fighter bodies are set up with all these collision volumes.
How accurate is like the automated system for that, or do you have to tweak it as well?
To tweak it.
Okay, yeah. I'm glad somebody's tweaking it,
Yeah. I mean,
Pretty important, physics-based fighting game,
Exactly.
Just a nice look here, guys, for what the dev team go through, how much work each thing takes really, and how complicated our game is, because UFC 5 is incredibly complicated. The change up to the Frostbite engine seems to have really helped the whole team, and now they've got a ton more things to play with as well, and advancements in technology that they can take use of. But after that, we got to go to the motion capture studio, and we had a ton of fun in here, guys.
So you're now standing on what we call A stage, which is one of the 2 stages we have in this building. This is the largest. There's another stage in LA that's a little smaller, and then another one in Orlando that's even a little smaller than that. They're as comfortable as possible. They feel like it's as much of the real thing. This is what we use for a cage wall. So you're going to be wearing these suits that have markers on them. For a cage wall or anything else, if we put up a giant solid object in front of you, our cameras, we were talking about the beams of light that come out, that would block the light from hitting the markers. That looks suspiciously like a belt.
After we've been shown the basics of the studio and where everything was going to go, we got into our motion capture suits, and we set about for the next 30 minutes getting covered in shiny little balls, which if you've seen Lord of the Rings or anything like that, or even any video game stuff, you'll know that this is how they capture motion in a lot of the games. There's a lot of stuff to capture for UFC 5. Obviously, they take a lot of this stuff from the fighters themselves and they'll come in and capture, but you can't get absolutely everything from the fighters sometimes. But for us today, it was more seeing how this whole process works so we could get a better understanding of how to, you know, come up with ideas for it or to give feedback on it based on knowing how the software works. It was really cool. They had an in-octagon render that you'll see on the TV in a second. That was probably the coolest part about it. But here's us doing some T-posing and doing some arena entrances. They said just, you know, walk however you would walk to the arena, get the crowd fired up, visualize, you know. Here's Marshall Mike going up some steps doing his best John Jones impression. I didn't know what I was going to do. I hit my T-pose and just... And here we were imitating Ken Shamrock. Ken Shamrock, you can't capture him anymore, can you? So some of the old fighters we have to do. Here's us all throwing jabs at the same time, you know, so we could get an idea for how the system worked, moving forward and throwing jabs. Obviously, there's different kinds of animations for that. And there you can see in the actual tracking data as well, what we look like on the screens when we're throwing those jabs side by side as well. So you can see all the differences in technique. It's pretty cool. And here's us doing the same thing basically with straight punches, I think. Throwing them out there, bouncy, bouncy. Some good technique on these straight punches, let me tell you. Marshall and Romero got in there as well. We basically asked the developers, you know, what kind of animations would you want? I don't know if any of these are going in the game, but it was really cool to see. And on the screen there as well, you can see an actual 3D render in real time of animated characters. That's them in the top right hand corner. You can see the screen doing it. And I got to do the same thing with some kicks. We don't have a lead leg switch kick to the head. So I was like, let me throw a couple out there. Let me feel it. And then here we go in the in-game. That is me bouncing around as a 3D character, honestly. I could have stood and shadowboxed in front of this thing all day and just watched movements. I don't know what it is about that, but it was so much fun. And here we go again, sort of tracking with the stage director as he walks from side to side, trying to get that switch kick to the head in for you guys, okay? We need one. Ideally, they're not going to use mine. I mean, come on, they'll get someone else. But, you know, it was nice to show that between ourselves, we could do some animations as well, if needed. Just another thing we could help out with. But again, it was more about learning the process. I tried to get this slide back straight in there, you know, because we don't have one of them either. We don't have a proper one. And here we go as well, pretending to be hit with a leg kick, you know, just doing some more animation, some reaction stuff. Boom, I stiff-legged my one there on the right-hand side, just collapsing down. It was a good time. After that, though, it was time to do something I know a lot of us have been looking forward to, get a roll in. There was actually quite a few black belts on the mat, and the class was run by Mr. Tristan Connolly. Yeah, that's the guy that beat Michelle Pereira. It was a great time. Got a bunch of rolls in, but I've only got 3 of them on footage here. We started out with Trust the Process, my man. Trust was a great guy, didn't know him before this event. He hadn't had too much grappling experience, I don't think, but he shot this nice single here, head position on the inside, and he actually gets me down, but he didn't complete. I had my leg around the side, and it was a nice roll with Trust. We got a little side control, took a little mount, tried to hit this armbar, good hips on the man there, and we ended up getting this cheeky little Americana, and it was a great little first roll to get us started there with Trust. We had a good time. All smiles all day. Have a little takedown here, get this underhook, and then head position, and we just drive forward. Nice, cheeky stuff. And after Trust, quick bow to Marshall Mind across the mat. Meanwhile, Romero's just going to town on Trust in this next round. Little fist bump. Had a great time with Marshall. Lots of hand fighting on the feet. Good battle. He usually trains in the gi. You could tell he was a really strong guy. Had a really good balance. Strong hips, strong base. Had a lovely hand fighting battle here. Peeling some hands. We get a cheeky underhook here in a second. I think, boom. Get the body lock, think we're going to get a takedown, steps across, great job by Marshall, managed to bounce and get back to knees and get up to the feet for this one though. Luckily get another pommel here, double underhooks. Right, managed to link my hands, got the body lock, get the hips a little closer. Turn, I'm going to drive, and Mr. Marshall Mind again, elevating. You can see my face, I say nice as I go down there. But unfortunately, these 2 gentlemen came in front of us here, so we lose some of this in a minute. And unfortunately, by the time they move, we're back on the feet. So I think I hit another get up from this position. I usually just try and hit the get up so I can get back to my striking, you know. But it was a great time and a great round with Marshall. Much respect to the man here. Appreciate that one. Maybe he has the other angle on that, I don't know. Next up with Mr. Anthony Romero. You know him as Romero. The speed that he came at me, I try to roll out on top. He takes top position. I can still get back to my knees here. Quick switch of the hips. Difference is here though, he can snap me down with his front headlock. And I'm back to the mat, straight to the back, but I get 2-on-1, pop my head out, sit to my back, wrap the top, gonna butt scoot my way out. He comes back on top, but I can still hip bump back to the knees, try and get back to my feet once again, and he's on my back. And then we start going to Ride City, man. This guy is such a good grappler and wrestler. I'm trying to keep that high base to stop him from jumping over. His wrist control was crazy. There's a little pass there, and this is where the beers from last night caught up with me. There was a little hug over. Roll to the back though. Push on the hips. This is nice from him. Look, I'm trying to underhook. Can't get it. Immediately attacks that Americana, does Mr. Romero. Pushes it to the mat. It's going to be tough to finish. What does he do? Goes to side control, turns it into an arm triangle. Round of applause. Play of the day for Mr. Romero. And a very tired Bayliun is going to tap to that one. Beautiful technique. Great job there from Mr. Romero. Killer on the mats, that kid. Honestly, there we are.
God damn. That guy's pretty good.
After that, we went and had lunch, played some pool, a game I actually had an advantage on against some Americans, I figured. Lots of pubs in England as well. Played a little table tennis. This was absolutely hilarious as well at the same time, I guess because neither guy could play.
It's only funny because you're both such good athletes, and you know what I mean? Like.
And then we went over to, well, the facial scanning section, really, of the studio, where they showed us the technology they use to scan, and it was so complex.
It's a lot of gear, as you can see. Like this one has
It was a lot of gear. It was all custom made. They built the frame themselves, and then they just put the cameras where they wanted them. This isn't something you can buy. As a games developer, they had to build this whole thing themselves. That's actually the one that they take on the road with them to different UFC events to scan fighters. Romero's sitting in it now, getting his picture taken. You can see the full result of it. Incredibly hard not to blink when this thing's flashing in your face, but it basically captures every single angle you could think, but also gets a really nice texture as well.
It's going to be called a war cry. You're going to make a, like you're going into battle. Nice.
Not as easy, right?
So let's do another one there.
He's too nice of a guy, you know?
How is that a war crime?
All right, 3, 2, 1. That was really, really good.
Okay, Tashala, I see you.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you can actually step out. That was perfect. I think I know. Nice.
Of course, I close my eyes because who needs to see when you're
Yeah,
doing a walk,
exactly.
right? You know?
That was a super fun experience, just getting to see how that worked and how they also capture the textures as well as get a 3D head render. But this was the body scanner where they scan entire bodies as well. You come and stand in. Mr. Marshall Mine kindly jumped in there for us and they scanned his whole body, heads, everything, entire torso, so they can basically 3D create his body as a 3D model with very little effort. It comes out with millions of polygons ready. It reads the topology. And after that, guys, it was a really long, hard couple of days. You know, I think everyone on the team worked hard, catering for us, but we also game changers. We tried to put our best foot forward every single day. 8, 9, 10-hour days, just UFC 5 discussions, seeing the facilities. Went to a Canucks game. At the end of it, I'd never been to ice hockey. It was kind of an interesting experience, very rowdy crowd. I had a great time, though, and it was a really, really good couple of days. After that, I had some time by myself. I took a walk around the city, Vancouver, just to take in the atmosphere and kind of reflect on the whole thing, really. Obviously, first of all, I was extremely grateful to be a part of the program and even be considered to be invited, let alone get to go along to the offices, speak to the people that are making the game, and just give my opinion on what changes need to be made and talk to the other game changers and just try and come to an agreement on the best things we can do to move the UFC gaming franchise forward as a whole. This felt amazing. It was like a fresh start with the developers, much more lines of communication, and we're all hoping that that's going to continue, and the plan is that it will continue throughout the rest of the development of UFC 5, and we can all come together. We listen to they listen to us, and continue to make this game as good as possible. But thank you for watching, guys. If you got any questions, let me know in the comments down below. It was a really, really fun trip. Definitely got a lot out of it. Met and saw a lot of great people, but also super thankful to be able to go and speak to the developers and try and get my opinion across and just try and make this game the best game it can goddamn be. I appreciate you all. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next one.